When you buy a new home, sometimes the previous tenants leave things behind. I once found a vintage rocking horse in an attic and hundreds of dollars worth of bear-making equipment in a shed. But one couple in Texas found something in their new house that was not a welcome discovery. When 61-year-old Mary Stewart Cerruti's mail started to pile up in 2015, her neighbors became concerned. After a wellness check showed no trace of the woman, she was officially reported missing. Sadly, 2 years later, without any sign of her, her house went into foreclosure. Liens on the property were settled, and the house was cleaned out, which included the remains of 6 dead cats. Cerruti allegedly took in stray cats, and cages were found in the attic, but there was still no trace of Cerruti. It wasn't until a couple bought and moved into the home that a startling discovery was made. Cerruti's badly decomposing remains were found in an 8-inch gap behind a wall. The new tenants first found bone fragments and then an entire skeleton with decomposing clothing, including rotting sneakers and a pair of eyeglasses. Investigators performed a series of forensic tests and have determined that the remains were those of Cerruti. The couple had been concerned about how Cerruti ended up in such a tiny gap behind her bathroom wall. Had she been killed and hidden there, or was her resting place the result of a terrible accident? Investigators found no signs of foul play and believe what happened was that Cerruti must have fallen through a loose floorboard in her attic and tragically ended up trapped in the 8-inch gap. Authorities did note that when conducting their original wellness check back in 2015, the ladder to the attic had been pulled down. In the attic, there was a broken board that led down to the space. Law enforcement thinks she may have been up in the attic and fell through the attic floor, said Tricia Bentley, a spokesperson for the medical examiner. It is a one-story home with an attic, so she was found on the first floor. There was some space between the walls where a person could fit. The cause of death is listed as undetermined because the remains were skeletonized. There is no evidence to say how exactly she died, she added. Cerruti has led a relatively secluded life. Her parents had died when she was young, and although there is evidence that she had previously been married twice, she lived alone when she died. Her only living relatives were cousins, which made it more difficult to get a DNA match on her remains. Neighbors say she hung tapestries over her windows for more privacy, but recently had attended a community planning meeting to protest a new housing development. The gap in the boards appears to be maybe 8 inches, and Mary was certainly very frail, but it's hard for me to believe that a person could step on a board, and their entire body would go down a crack that is 2 inches wider than a dollar bill, admitted Roxanne Davis, Cerruti's neighbor. There were a couple hundred pairs of eyes on her house at all times, and anybody could look down and see that she was alone. She was elderly, she was frail, and she was vulnerable, flat out vulnerable, she continued. Sadly, it is the elderly, especially those who live alone, who are often overlooked in a community. At least now Cerruti can be given a proper resting place. Please share this video with friends and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more stories.